Flyers coverage is brought to you by PlaySugarHouse.com. Sign up now. They'll match your first deposit up to $250. Go to PlaySugarHouse.com. Win real money with their sports book along with casino games from the comfort of your home. Must be 21 or older to play. Gambling problem. 1-800-GAMBLER. I don't think the Flyers' problems are in the same realm as the Sixers' problems from last night, but they did lose the game. What happened, and should we be concerned? 5 takeaways from Kevin Durso, who covers the Flyers for 97.3 ESPN.com, and he joins us now right here. Mike and Broads on the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. They scored power play goals last night, Durso, but they lost. So what gives? Is that a good thing, a bad thing? Do you take more positives, or are there some concerns coming out of Game 5?
It's a little bit of both. I think that the power play is definitely a positive. You started to see some production, and even though the overall numbers were 3 for 7, that's a result of having a 5-minute major and scoring twice. They give you a third automatically, which lasted only 8 seconds for them. So that's kind of a skewed number for them. And all in all, I thought that they did score in key situations with the power play. You get that 5-minute major, it's a chance to change the momentum. They scored twice. You get another one in the third period when you're down by a goal, and you get that too. So I think that was all good things. The concern is that you saw the desperation from the Montreal Canadiens in this game, and you couldn't match it. And they were the harder team, and that's why they won the game. So that's the challenge for the Flyers now, is they've got to be the harder team in Game 6 and try to put an end to this series.
In the third period, Joel Farabee, he tipped in that puck on the power play to tie the game. 22 seconds later, there was some miscommunication in the D zone. What do you think happened there?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. First of all, Alain Vigneault's gone to that fourth line and third pairing a lot in the series. And, I can understand having trust in your players, especially when they gave you 2 efforts like they did in Games 3 and 4. But this one burned him. And I don't understand that matchup there. You had Montreal, who gets the first change as the road team, put out their second line, which really was a group of players that had been responsible for powering some of the offense there. I mean, Jonathan Drouin's a talented forward. Nick Suzuki was having an incredible game to that point. And Max Domi had been improved probably from Game 2 on. And those 3 are on the ice, and you counter with your fourth line. I think that's a terrible mismatch. And, kudos for having some trust in those players, but it came back to bite you. I think a complete defensive breakdown, a bad turnover behind the net, 3 guys get caught below the goal line, and that's how Nick Suzuki sneaks out in front of the net, and there's nobody there to take him. And he's able to just freeze Carter Hart, get him down and out, and score an easy goal. And you can't have that happen on the first shift after you tie the game. You just can't. It needs to be, you need to put the game under control right there. It certainly felt like that power play goal by Farabee was a bit of a moment that something that told you they were going to come out of this game, still find a way to win it for all of the other struggles. I mean, it was a game of momentum swings. The Flyers started the game on a power play less than 2 minutes in. Montreal scores a shorthanded goal. You get the major penalty to Kokoniemi. They score twice on a 5-minute power play. Look like they take all the momentum back. Carter Hart gives up his first real leaky goal of the series to Joel Armia that ties the game. Phil Myers takes a 4-minute high-sticking penalty. After that, Montreal gets the lead as a result. And there was an offside challenge that called back another Montreal goal. So after all of that, you finally work your way back. You get that power play goal that finally tie the game up. And 22 seconds later, a defensive breakdown with your fourth line and third pairing on the ice. And you have a turnover, and Montreal scores what ends up being the game-winning goal. And it can't happen immediately after you get that momentum shift where you tie the game.
Kevin Durso covers the Flyers, 97.3 ESPN.com. Tons of Flyers coverage on our website. Check out his 5 takeaways. Hindsight, always 20/20. Do you play Carter Hart again if you can go back?
Yeah, I do, and I play him because of the fact that I still would have given him the start because of the fact that he was the hottest goalie on the planet at the time. I think going into that Game 5, he's as hot as it can be at that point. You have to trust that he's got what he had in Games 3 and 4, and I don't change anything going forward either. I think you go right back to him for Game 6 too, because you've got to rest your hopes on him in net and assume he's going to do his job. And he had moments in Game 5 where he wasn't sharp, and it showed. But I do think that when that goal got disallowed, that offside challenge, which was going to be his 4th allowed, they were pretty much going to pull him at that spot, and instead they left him out there in the 3-2 game. I don't think from there he played poorly. I think he improved from there. The one goal they score is obviously off of a breakdown where he's left out to dry, and he at least showed signs that he was bouncing back within a game, actually, not just from one bad game to the next one, but within the game. I would trust him wholeheartedly in Game 6 to come out and play a really quality game and do everything he can to shoulder as much as he can to get you to the next round.
I would have to agree. And this isn't an excuse, but in a playoff series, you're playing a back-to-back game. It's hard to win back-to-backs in regular season, and now you're throwing in a back-to-back, and the team you're facing up against is going up against elimination themselves. So it's just a wonky situation for them. I feel confident in Game 6, but there is something that can change the outcome of Game 6. So Matt Niskanen cross-checks Gallagher in the face, and it looks like he's going to have a hearing. What are your thoughts on the play itself, and do you think that there'll be a suspension?
Yeah, I do think there will be a suspension. And, Montreal really went to bat for this one. They had a unique angle of it.
To be fair, I'd probably do the same thing if the Flyers ended up, his face was busted up, teeth bleed. I mean, if I was the Flyers and something happened like that to one of my players, I'd probably do the same. Yeah,
and I mean, they have an angle of it from the corner that I think their social media team must have gathered, and then they put it out there in super slow motion to really show you the angle and what really happened. And I think that, that says a lot. The video does show an awful lot there. So I think he's getting a game. And, this game, it's the bad blood in this series has finally started to boil. It took 5 games, but it's really there now. I mean, from the Kokoniemi hit on Sanheim that was called for a major, Sanheim's left bleeding after that. A little bit of a weird way to have some blood boiling here, but Nick Suzuki pats Carter Hart on the head after Armia's second goal, the one that leaks through him, and that kind of led to some more aggressive crease clearing from there. And I think that as that happened, that's where Phil Myers took that high sticking penalty. Brendan Gallagher was it was a retaliatory cross-check from Matt Niskanen. He had been kind of cross-checked moments before that, but you always get the second guy, so Niskanen's one is not only more severe, but also the retaliation. So he's the one who gets noticed, and he'll likely get suspended at least for Game 6, I would imagine. And then right at the end of the game, too, Sean Couturier collides with Arturi Lehkonen after Montreal's empty net goal. A huge scrum breaks out. You got Jake Voracek jumping into the pile. That feels like playoff hockey. That's the animosity that comes from a playoff series, and it's going to set the stage really nicely for Game 6 when you have guys who are really fired up about going against each other and some of that blood boiling. I mean, Kevin Hayes turned around and said what Nick Suzuki did to Carter Hart after that goal was immature. So you've got some words floating around now, and that's going to set the stage really nicely for this upcoming game on Friday.
And then obviously, Kevin, the follow would be if Niskanen's out, what happens then? And how big of a loss is that? I mean, most people might be like, what's Niskanen do? I mean, if you're only watching playoff hockey, you don't know what he means to this team.
Yeah, he's a big loss from the regular season role, and he helps really balance out Ivan Provorov's game. So now you're going to have to compensate for that loss. I assume that they want to keep the left-right defensive pairing going on the top pairing. So I think Phil Myers would be the guy who slots up to take Niskanen's place. And then you've got to somehow fill his spot in the lineup too. The obvious choice is going to be Shane Gostisbehere, who's been not only sitting around for the last couple of games, but also took warm-ups last night. So he's at least been out there in warm-ups ready to go. But I think that if you really wanted to be, I don't think this will happen, but I think you could even be daring about it and say to keep that left-right on every single pairing. You could even throw a guy like Mark Friedman into the mix here. But I don't think you're going to do that in Game 6 of a playoff series. So I think Gostisbehere will come in. I don't know where exactly he'll slot in, but it will be somewhere on the bottom 2 pairings, because the top pairing, I think Phil Myers is going to move up, and that's how you're going to try to compensate for Matt Niskanen's absence.
Yeah, losing Matt Niskanen definitely scares me a little bit, although I do think they finish it out in 6. That is a huge hole in that top pairing. Jake Voracek stepped up big time yesterday. That was the best I've seen him play in a long time. And Claude Giroux had a couple nice passes to him on the power play, although he's not to where we want him to be. There's a couple guys still not playing great up at the top of the lines. Scott Lawton, Travis Konechny. What do these 2 players need to do to really take the next step and provide some sort of spark offensively?
I think they need to simplify their game. I think that you've got guys who are still trying too hard to make that perfect play. And, I think that Claude Giroux and Jake Voracek both took what was given to them. You can make those cross-ice passes and go for the one-timer and maybe try to funnel the puck to the net when the win is there for you. But, it's funny when they said it, like, they said that they needed to be more patient with some of the chances. And I guess, in theory, that's part of what worked in Game 5 is that they them, let the play open them a little bit, and as a result, once you're set up in the zone and you're able to cycle the puck better, you can get pucks to the net when the lane opens up, whenever it does. And I think you saw that also from Kevin Hayes on that line in particular we're talking about. Kevin Hayes got some really good scoring chances in this game because he took what was given to him. I think that's what Travis Konechny and Scott Lawton need to do. And I think that it also stems from their play in the other end of the ice, too. I think that they need to be more responsible with the puck first and foremost and make the smart play. You know, both of them are smart hockey players. We've seen it all year long. But you need them to step up in the other way, too. And it starts by continuing to be the smart player that you are. You've got to be making those simple plays that get you moving, play a more north-south game instead of the east-west where you're trying to be creative with it. Just play good, hard-nosed hockey. And both of those players know how to do it. And if they can do that in Game 6 and get their offense turned around as a result, then the Flyers should be in good shape because of that. But they need those guys to start contributing in a big way.
Kevin Durso, you wrote, mark my words, if the Flyers don't take this series in Game 6, they will not come out of it. So essentially, you're saying the series comes down to tomorrow night.
I really think so. And the reason I think so is because the more desperate team won the game on Wednesday night and extended this series. And there were so many, like I said, there were so many momentum changers in that. And the Flyers struggled all night to really match that desperation, even in the final minute of the game. So to me, they have to be the more desperate team in Game 6. They have to treat this like a must-win. And I think that the big thing about that, too, is, you know, if they don't take the series in Game 6, they're not winning the series in my mind. And all of the progress we've talked about, all of the high hopes and all of the momentum and excitement that surrounded this team, not only, you know, from before the pause to round robin to the early parts of this series, that's going to disappear. And they'll have, and going into Game 7, they're going to have that playoff series drought, that 8 years since they've won a playoff series, hanging over their heads. So they need to be desperate, and they need to go back to frustrating Montreal with that stifling defense they have. Maintain the physical approach. Don't get caught up in the games that Montreal is trying to play, and they're trying to play a lot of them at this point, because not just on the ice, but you saw everything they've been doing today with everything surrounding the Matt Niskanen situation. They're really trying to get inside of the Flyers' head here, and the fact that they're hanging around makes them tough. And you know, it is playoff hockey, and playoff hockey is tough, but I think that you're letting this team hang around too much, and you've got to find a way to finish this off, because you need to move on to a different opponent if you want to keep this train rolling. And the longer this goes, to me, the more dangerous it is. So that's why I think Game 6 is everything for the Flyers. You've got an opportunity for the second time to close out this series, and you don't want to see it turn into an elimination game for yourself, because I think then Montreal has all the momentum. They know the formula that it will take to win another game, and I think the Flyers are in big trouble if they don't win Game 6 and move on right then and there.
All right, he's Kevin Durso at Kevin_Durso for more on this big Game 6. It's coming up on Friday night. That game will be on our sister station, 104.1 Rock 104.1, and the Rock 104.1 app. You can download it there and listen to that game on Rock 104.1. We'll have Sixers and Celtics game number 3 tomorrow night at 6:30 here, 7 o'clock tomorrow over on Rock 104.1. All right, Kevin, appreciate it, man.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.